The Camilla massacre of 1868 is one of the darkest and most tragic events in American history that is often overlooked and unknown to many. The massacre occurred in Camilla, Georgia, on September 19, 1868, during the Reconstruction era, and it involved a violent clash between white vigilantes and black citizens. The incident resulted in the deaths of at least 15 African Americans and the injury of dozens more. The Reconstruction era was a time of great social, economic, and political change in the United States. It was a period of rebuilding and restructuring after the Civil War, which had ended just a few years earlier. During Reconstruction, the federal government sought to integrate newly freed African Americans into society, granting them citizenship and voting rights. However, this progress was met with fierce opposition from white Southerners who resented the changes brought about by Reconstruction. Camilla, a small town in southwestern Georgia, was no exception to this opposition. The town had a predominantly black population, and the newly enfranchised African Americans were seen as a threat to the white power structure. In the months leading up to the massacre, tensions had been rising between the two groups, with white vigilantes threatening and intimidating black citizens. On the day of the massacre, a group of armed white vigilantes entered Camilla and began firing on black citizens who had gathered at a political rally. The rally was being held in support of a black candidate for local office, and it was seen as a direct challenge to white supremacy. The white vigilantes quickly overpowered the black citizens, who were mostly unarmed, and began a brutal massacre that lasted for several hours. Many of the black victims were shot in the back as they attempted to flee the violence. Others were chased down and killed in their homes or on the streets. The aftermath of the Camilla massacre was equally tragic. The local authorities, who were sympathetic to the white vigilantes, refused to investigate the incident or bring the perpetrators to justice. In fact, the only person who was arrested was a black man who had been falsely accused of inciting the violence. The Camilla massacre was not an isolated incident. It was part of a larger pattern of violence and intimidation against African Americans during the Reconstruction era. White vigilantes, often aided by local authorities, carried out similar attacks in other parts of the South in an effort to maintain white supremacy. The untold story of the Camilla massacre of 1868 is a testament to the resilience and strength of the black community during one of the darkest periods in American history. Despite the violence and oppression they faced, African Americans continued to fight for their rights and the dignity. The legacy of their struggle lives on today, as we continue to work towards a more just and equitable society. The Camilla massacre was not widely reported at the time, and it was largely forgotten in the years that followed. It wasn't until the 1970s that historians began to uncover the details of the massacre and shed light on this tragic event. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Camilla massacre was the courage and determination of the black citizens who refused to be intimidated by the white vigilantes. Despite the overwhelming odds against them, they stood up for their rights and their beliefs. Some even continued to hold political rallies and organize for change in the years that followed. The legacy of the Camilla massacre lives on today, as a reminder of the struggle for civil rights and the ongoing fight for equality. It is a stark reminder of the atrocities that can occur when those in power refuse to recognize the humanity and worth of all people, regardless of race or ethnicity. The Camilla massacre also serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of extremism and hatred. It is a stark reminder of the consequences that can result when people are driven by fear, anger, and prejudice. As we continue to confront the challenges of our own time, we must remember the lessons of history and work to create a more just and equitable society for all people. In the wake of the Camilla massacre, there was a renewed effort by the federal government to protect the civil rights of African Americans. The passage of the 14th and 15th Amendments to the Constitution granted citizenship and voting rights to Black Americans, and the creation of the Freedmen's Bureau provided assistance and protection to newly freed slaves. However, these gains were short-lived, as white supremacists in the South worked tirelessly to undermine the progress of Reconstruction. The Ku Klux Klan and other white supremacist groups engaged in acts of violence, intimidation, and voter suppression, effectively nullifying the gains of the Reconstruction era and establishing a system of racial segregation and discrimination that would last for nearly a century. It wasn't until the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s that progress was made towards dismantling this system of oppression. The legacy of the Camilla massacre, and the many other acts of violence and injustice that occurred during the Reconstruction era, serves as a reminder of the ongoing struggle for civil rights and social justice in America. Today, the town of Camilla is a small, predominantly African American community that has worked to preserve the memory of the massacre and honor the victims. In 2018, a memorial plaque was unveiled in honor of the victims, and the town holds an annual commemoration of the massacre. The untold story of the Camilla massacre of 1868 is a painful reminder of the injustices of the past, but it also serves as a testament to the resilience and determination of those who fought for their rights and their dignity. It is a reminder that the struggle for civil rights and social justice is ongoing, and that we must remain vigilant in our efforts to build a more just and equitable society for all people.